we definitely have a problem. A rise in demand for energy at the global level, up to more than 600 exajoules, 14,300 million of tons of oil equivalent, plus 50% in respect of the beginning of this century, from the year 2000. Even despite the small effect of COVID, minus 4.5% in 2020, needed to sustain mobility, heating, and electricity production. A rise in demand, where 82% of the total is still due to fossil fuels, oil, coal, and natural gas, and where renewables account for only about 10%. Yes, indeed, the growth in demand is driven by an increased prosperity, particularly in some areas of the world, China and India among the others. But it is clear that the efficiency gains had a relatively marginal impact. We are starting to have clear signals of a change. The constant decrease in the usage of oil, the more recent decrease in the usage of coal, and renewables, hydropower excluded, that have overtaken nuclear and almost doubling the impact of the traditional hydroelectricity. The change, however, has to involve all of us. If we consider that, at the global level, 29% of energy is used for transport, 29% for industry, 33% for agriculture, residential, and services, and the remaining 9% is devoted to the so-called non-energy uses, like, for example, the petrochemical applications of oil. In Italy, we need about 140 million of stolen of oil equivalent of energy, with a very similar distribution among transport, industry, agriculture, residential, and services that we have seen at global level, and also with a similar trend related to the decrease in the use of oil and coal. The shift towards renewable sources is much more evident if we look at electricity production, where it is clear the rise of renewables overtaking the oil and petroleum products that were leading our production in 1990 and fighting with natural gas for the leadership in the electricity production. Solar and wind, on top of the existing hydroelectric power, are at the basis of this shift, which is now very clear. The real challenge, however, is ahead of us, and we are currently only surfacing the disruptive change we will experiment in the coming years. In May 2021, for the first time in history, the IEA, International Energy Agency, designed a future scenario where the global energy demand, the one that we have seen at the beginning of this video topping 600 exajoules, is going to be served for the large majority by renewables. The blue side of the energy, using the color of the graph as a reference, is expected to surpass fossil fuels in 2040, less than 20 years from now, and make another giant step in the following decade. Already in 2030, the impact of renewables at the global level starts becoming significant, claiming to be crucial for the next 10 years in order to assess this scenario. At a point where the IEA is suggesting to stop new oil and gas projects to reach net zero by 2050. The next 20 years are therefore bringing to the scenario a change of a magnitude greater than what has been experienced in the past 20 years. It is worth also mentioning, for the first time ever, we are also expecting a reduction in the overall energy demand. Thus bringing also energy efficiency as a key contributor to the new scenario. Is it trustable, such a scenario? The issue is strongly debated, particularly after the war in Ukraine has further stressed the energy system, at least at EU level. REPowerEU, unveiled in May 2022, appears to be consistent with the scenario described by the IEA, and it even goes further in pushing to speed up the transformation process. A decarbonized EU passes through a significant increase in the production of energy from renewable sources, and the rise of hydrogen as an alternative to fossil fuels in the so-called hard-to-abate industries. But the challenges ahead are much more complex. Besides renewables, there is a case for decentralization of the production, the consumption more and more efficient, and of the grid infrastructure management, paving the way for the rise of the new paradigm of energy communities, an innovative coordination mechanism of active customers. Electrification of consumption, particularly those related to transportation, that account for about 1/3 of the total energy, is another key enabler of the future energy scenario. The need for more flexible, interconnected and distributed systems require a mandatory shift towards the so-called digital energy, where existing and emerging digital technologies represent a sort of mirror of the physical grid and enable forms of production and consumption that are even yet to be fully discovered, together with the related businesses. Efficient storage systems and a full disclosure of the potential of hydrogen represent the basis for the establishment of the new energy scenario. We are really in a hurry, like this quote suggests. We need to look back into history to understand our energy problem. Twice in the last several hundred years, there has been a transition in the way people use energy. Because we are now running out of gas and oil, we must prepare quickly for a third change. We do not have that much time left. But this quote belongs to President Jimmy Carter in 1979. We did not undertake much of this change so far, but the signals of change, as I mentioned before, are now really sounding. We have the technologies, energetic and digital, the policies and the related money, and the willingness of customers. So we are now really in a hurry, and the next years will be crucial to assess the reality of the energy scenario.